Yo, I'm still not sure what happened with Zelfa Barrett in that 9th round against Shavkat Rakhimov. But anyway, what's good? It's Woog. We have a pretty good battle at 130 super featherweight as Jordan Gill, 28 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw, takes on Zelfa Barrett, 30 wins and 2 losses. I would say this is a battle of top 15 to top 18-ish 130 pounders. You could argue as high as top 12, top 13. I've long thought Zelfa Barrett is a top 10 talent in the division, but he does have that recent loss against Shavkat Rakhimov, which was a pretty significant setback. And he was doing well in the early rounds of that fight. There was apparently an injury, and according to him in subsequent interviews, an injury in the 9th round. I mean, I thought that he was slowing down in the middle rounds, but like the unofficial scorecard, I think it was Chris Mannix, had him winning like the first 4 or 5 rounds, winning all those rounds. But Shavkat kept on coming forward, southpaw, kept on applying the pressure, and Zelfa Barrett sustained some sort of a leg injury to his right leg. It rendered him nearly immobile, off balance, and he got dropped a couple of times, stopped in the 9th round. So again, significant setback. But with that said, even though Jordan Gill is being billed as the A side in this matchup, Zelfa Barrett is the betting favorite. And going into it, seeing that Jordan Gill was the A side fighter who's seemingly been getting more of a promotional push, I was wondering what the betting odds were going to look like, because if Jordan Gill was the favorite, I was thinking strongly about putting something on the Zelfa Barrett side, because I look at him as being the better fighter between the two, the classier boxer, if you will. I know Jordan Gill recently got a stoppage win over Michael Conlan, but I don't think Michael Conlan has been the same ever since that fight of the year for 2022 against Lee Wood. Even if Conlan looked pretty good in the 2 fights that followed, one of them against Miguel Mariaga, who is also very far past his prime. But I just don't think Michael Conlan's chin is holding up. I don't think he's got the durability to really sustain a elite level career going forward. So I don't make too much of that Jordan Gill win over Conlan. Plus, Michael Conlan was just coming up to 130. This was right after that stoppage loss at the hands of Luis Alberto Lopez. Remember, Conlan fought Luis Lopez. Luis Lopez was defending his featherweight IBF title. Lopez hurt Conlan multiple times in the early rounds and then viciously knocked him out in one of the knockout of the year contenders in the 5th round. So again, Michael Conlan, I kind of saw as being damaged goods entering the fight against Jordan Gill. And Jordan Gill himself was just moving up to 130, a division that Zelfa Barrett's been operating in for several years. Jordan Gill was just coming up to 130 after getting viciously beaten up and stopped in the 4th round himself against Kiko Martinez. Kiko Martinez, by the way, is a common opponent between these two. Zelfa Barrett, I thought, looked really good and just clearly outboxed Kiko Martinez. He had Kiko Martinez following him, was unable to cut the ring off because Zelfa Barrett's a pretty good back foot boxer mover. But in fairness, that was Kiko Martinez coming up from 126 to 130 to try to fight Zelfa Barrett. Didn't go well for Kiko Martinez. It was a unanimous decision win for Barrett. But when Jordan Gill fought Kiko Martinez in October of 2022, Kiko Martinez was just successfully hunting him down, just battering him. And he was like whiffing with a few overhand rights, trying to catch him up top. Jordan Gill was timing those and ducking under them until Kiko Martinez decided to switch it up and throw an uppercut, turn it into an uppercut, which Jordan Gill dipped right into. And that was the beginning of the end. He dropped him, and again, he finished him by the 4th round. Jordan Gill got absolutely battered. He didn't have enough heat to keep Kiko Martinez off of him, and he didn't have enough of a back foot game to navigate the space and to keep Kiko Martinez chasing him like Martinez was chasing Zelfa Barrett. But Zelfa Barrett doesn't present the same destructive threat that Kiko Martinez did to Jordan Gill. So it's going to be a little bit interesting in how Jordan Gill, a southpaw, is going to approach the fight with Zelfa Barrett, who again, he doesn't have the reputation of a knockout artist. And again, this is Jordan Gill's 2nd fight at 130. But if you look at their careers, Zelfa Barrett, out of his 30 wins, 16 have come via knockout. And out of Jordan Gill's 28 wins, 9 have come via knockout. So Jordan Gill has like less than a 33% knockout ratio. Zelfa Barrett's got a greater than 50% knockout ratio. So even if this fight looks like it's Jordan Gill who's going to be pressuring Zelfa Barrett, trying to turn this into a bit of a slugfest, wants to get into messy and brutal exchanges to have a real chance at winning, it's not clear who the harder puncher is between these two. And if we're looking at the data, it's Zelfa Barrett, who's not only the sweeter scientist of the two, but maybe even the harder puncher. So again, look, I've not been high on Jordan Gill, even when he had that very entertaining back and forth, drag out, knockdown fight against Kareem Guerfi. That's the same Kareem Guerfi who got stopped by Michael Conlan in the first round. Michael Conlan stopped Kareem Guerfi. Well, that same Guerfi was able to beat up on Jordan Gill. They were going back and forth. It was, again, a very rough and entertaining shootout. Jordan Gill ended up stopping Kareem Guerfi in the 9th round. Again, that was a very difficult fight for Jordan Gill. Gill's other loss was to Mario Tinoco back in 2019. He got stopped in the 8th round. So, I mean, that was a while ago, but it wasn't that long ago. It was just the other side of COVID, really. Whereas Zelfa Barrett's other loss was in 2018, February of 2018 against Ronnie Clark. Ronnie Clark badly hurt Zelfa Barrett in the earlier rounds. Zelfa Barrett had to really bite down and tough it out to make it the full 12 and only lost via majority decision. So he was still competitive in that one and he didn't get stopped. But again, he did get stopped against Shavkat Rakhimov a few years later, September of 2022. But it should also be noted that that fight was actually supposed to be a Joe Cordina title defense against Shavkat Rakhimov. Remember, Cordina got injured, he got stripped of his title, and then that title was up for grabs in that Shavkat Rakhimov versus Zelfa Barrett fight. So Zelfa Barrett was a relatively late replacement. He was training for a fight, but that fight was supposed to be like a month later. So he had to kind of speed up his training camp to prepare for a southpaw, again, a southpaw in Shavkat Rakhimov. And all things considered, Zelfa Barrett, again, did very well in those early rounds. So look, I don't see this one as being too tough of a call. Now, I might totally blow it and get it wrong, but I see this as a clear skill gap between Barrett and Jordan Gill. I see Barrett as being the better boxer. He's a very nice counterpuncher. He throws nice uppercuts. He times really nice right hands. And again, he's a pretty good mover. Does Jordan Gill have the ability? I still see him as being up a division here. Does he have the ability? He's 5'5", Zelfa Barrett is 5'7". Does Jordan Gill have the ability to be up a division and to pressure a slightly taller, better mover, slicker boxer, better defender? Does he have the ability and talent to apply enough pressure to eventually beat down and break Zelfa Barrett? I just don't see Jordan Gill winning the rounds here. I see him getting outclassed. He might have a bit of a puncher's chance, but I think that he's going to be walking into some hard shots. And I don't see Gill as having like one punch knockout power. I'm going to go with Zelfa Barrett here. And I was more so wondering whether Zelfa Barrett was going to stop him or beat him via decision. But Barrett does tend to kind of slow down in the second half of fights. I mean, who doesn't, right? But it's more important for the movers when they slow down, because if you're getting walked down and your abilities to survive and thrive is based on your movement and that's what's keeping your opponent off of you, then I've said this in several videos, I think that it's incumbent on the mover to at some point stand his ground. Otherwise, you're going to be looking like Rashidi Ellis in the late rounds against Roman Villa, where he eventually got walked down and worked over, dropped in the final round. If you're not able to stand your ground and you're still reliant on moving, where you are not able to move as well in the second half of the fight because you're more tired, your legs are tired, you're less elusive, all of that, you've got to be able to stand your ground. I do think that even as Zelfa Barrett starts to slow down, which again, we've seen it against Bruno Tarimo, Farouk Korbanov. We've seen him slow down even in recent fights. I mean, even against Jason Sanchez, and that was after the Rakhimov fight, you know, and Zelfa Barrett has had 2 fights since that 9th round stoppage loss against Rakhimov. It was against Jason Sanchez and against Costin Ion in April and November 2023, respectively. So even as Zelfa Barrett slows down, I think that he's still gonna be the more technical boxer of the two. We might get a few entertaining rounds. You know, Jordan Gill might outwork Barrett in a couple of those middle or even late rounds. I just think that Zelfa Barrett will have built enough of a lead and would still be able to pick off enough of the middle and late rounds to win a pretty clear decision. I look at this one as being maybe 8 rounds to 4, 9 rounds to 3. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Zelfa Barrett drops Jordan Gill at some point in this fight, maybe in the first half of the fight. But I'm going to go with Zelfa Barrett, something like, again, 116 to 112 or 117 to 111, give or take the knockdown for Zelfa Barrett. So yeah, I've got him winning a somewhat competitive but pretty damn clear decision over Jordan Gill. But let me know your thoughts on this one. Again, this is 2 pretty damn good fighters at 130. I look at Zelfa Barrett as being the better of the two, even though Jordan Gill's the one who's getting more of the promotional push here. This is a good opportunity for Zelfa Barrett to get right back in that top 12, top 10-ish mix. And I do think that he could beat some top 10 fighters in the division. The champions in this division, by the way, are Lamont Roach, who just beat Hector Garcia. He's got the WBA belt. O'Shaquie Foster has the WBC belt. He now has a couple successful title defenses. Emmanuel Navarrete is still technically the WBO champion, but he's going up to try to win another divisional title. He's going for the WBO belt in a vacant title fight against Dennis Baranchek up at 135. So I'm expecting him to vacate the WBO title at some point. If he does vacate, then Oscar Valdez, who just stopped Liam Wilson, will be elevated from interim champ to full WBO champ in the division. And then Joe Cordina is the IBF champion. I'm not yet sure what Lee Wood is going to do. I'm not sure if he's going to be fighting for a title in the division, if he's going to run it back with Josh Warrington. I'm not sure about that. Shavkat Rakhimov, who I'd mentioned, having beat Zelfa Barrett, lost to Joe Cordina. He got beaten up pretty badly because they did eventually fight. You know, after Joe Cordina had pulled out of the first one, Shavkat beat Zelfa Barrett. Then Shavkat fought Joe Cordina. Joe Cordina won a split decision. I thought that it should have been a unanimous decision. I thought he really put a beating on Shavkat, but Shavkat was game. But he took so many punches to where I think that he was damaged goods going into the fight. His next fight against Eduardo Nunez. Eduardo Nunez unexpectedly stopped Shavkat Rakhimov in the 11th round. You know, those were Shavkat's only 2 losses, against Joe Cordina and against Eduardo Nunez. So with that upset win, Eduardo Nunez enters the top 10 in the division. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. And you still have like Robson Conceição in the division. He just fought to a draw with Emmanuel Navarrete. So yeah, it's still a pretty damn interesting and competitive division. I hope we get some unification fights. There are a lot of the fighters on Matchroom, Joe Cordina, O'Shaquie Foster, and this fight is going to be on DAZN as well. So say Zelfa Barrett beats Jordan Gill, Zelfa Barrett should be somewhere in line for a title shot. I know he's ranked pretty highly in a couple of the sanctioning bodies, but I would like to see him fight either an O'Shaquie Foster or a Joe Cordina, even though Joe Cordina and Zelfa Barrett, I believe, are friends. They're pretty close. But if we don't get either of those, then I would like to see a unification fight, perhaps between O'Shaquie Foster and Joe Cordina. But I've heard that that one is unlikely, even though, well, we'll see. Before I get ahead of myself, let me know what you think about Jordan Gill versus Zelfa Barrett. Who do you see winning this one and how? And who do you see being the best champion in this division? Who do you see being the #1 fighter right now at 130? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.